Yeah.
Okay, sir. Give me, sir, 2 minutes. All. Sir, when the session will start, you will be the. Just a minute. I am giving you the host. Just a minute.
Okay. Thank you.
कितने पैसा लगे कितने हुआ तेल और
Dr. Naveen?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Naveen. Now
Yes,
you
sir.
are the host. So kindly, sir, mute to all. Sir, kindly mute to all. Dr. Naveen, am I
Yes,
audible? Sir, Dr.
Yes.
Naveen?
Yep.
Yes, sir, you are the host at that time. You can mute to all of the participants and you can
Yes,
start, sir. So, and you
Yep.
can also share your screen.
Yes. I'm trying to share the screen. Thank you.
That will be visible only your screen.
Okay. Can you see me now? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. In the
So can
screen,
you
there
see
is only your name, but not your screen of the laptop.
Okay. All right. So
Now, yes, you are visible.
okay. Okay. Good. Okay. I just need to. I'm trying to work it out. Okay, how about now?
Now it's visible, sir.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
you can
sir.
see my slides, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
How to
excellent.
publish a high
So,
impact factor journal. Yes, sir.
yes, thank you.
Okay, sir.
So I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, sir. You are audible, and everyone can hear you.
Okay, so I'll go ahead, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good afternoon.
Kindly mute to all of the participants.
I,
अनम्यूट तो इससे हो जाएगा
Mute to all.
yes. Is it better? Yeah. Mute all, yeah. All right, can you see me now? Yeah. Okay, so my name is Naveen Chankuti. I'm from La Trobe University. I'm heading the cybersecurity discipline. So hopefully everyone is safe and doing well. So today, the seminar is about how to publish in high impact journals. Basically, it's all about research. So let's see what is research, how we can publish in high impact journals. Okay. So what is research? So if we know what we were doing, it won't be a called research. So it's very simple. It's something new, something creative, something we don't know. We are actually exploring. So that's called research. Anything, as I said, we are in IT or we are in some social science, any discipline, something new, something creative, and you work on that creative idea is called the research. Now, as you know, this is very, very common saying that you publish or perish. So one of the biggest thing as academics we had to make a decision is we had to publish. Okay, it's very part of our life as academics, and we're sure that like me, my colleagues, like many of you must have published before. So one of the frequent publication is one of the few powerful methods at our especially researcher disposal to demonstrate academic talent to peers. So this is the best tool, I would think. So this is the best.
क्या चीज ये तो पहले करनी है
This is the best tool I can say we can use to communicate to others, especially international community. So this is the how far we can reach is depends on your sort of a paper. How good is the paper? And successful publication of research brings attention. Obviously, this will attract a lot of attention, basically. And nowadays, as you can see, many universities, thousands of universities, and especially in India, other Asian countries, academic institutions actually frequently use the number of publications to sort of, what do you call, make them standard. Okay, so any ranking you see, worldwide ranking or sort of a local nationalized ranking, academics publishing in good papers are considered to be one of the parameter. Okay, and obviously administrators or people who are hiring you are increasingly actually using this criteria during the recruitment. I can tell you because I recruit a lot of academics. Research is one of the first thing we actually will look into. And I'll tell you different parameters again. It's not, a lot of frequent questions I get is, how do you look at quality versus quantity? So I'll come back to that point later. But as I said, it's very much on the top of the list for any academic institutes to hire people. Okay, because this is the best measure for your measure of competency. We can tell. So it's really important to publish as an academic in there. but now the question is where we have to publish, what is good, what is not good, and if it is good, how to publish. So that's a question we all ask many times. So what is impact factor? Let's go to the impact factor before we actually go to what is a journal. Impact factor actually was invented, it's a parameter, it's a statistical parameter invented by Egan Garfield for the SCI, we call Science Citation Index, in 1965. Okay, so almost more than 40 years. So the first initial SCI index is really simple. Okay, but this is the first known systematic effort to track citations. Citations are very important in the scientific literature. So we all can say we publish really well, and only the publication will be only regarded as the best if it is cited many times, as you all know. So metric was now used by Thomas Reuters, which owns the SCI, Science Citation Index now. Very, very common, and I'm sure you all know what is that SCI factor is, impact factor is. Basically, impact factor is average number of citations per paper published in the journal during the last previous 2 years. Okay, this is very important because it gives you about the journal, not about your paper. So that is where this whole seminar is about, how to get into high impact journals, means how to make the impact in there. So getting into a high impact journals is really important because that will give you more citations. Okay, so this gives the impact about the journal, not individual citations. So coming to the H index, which is a Google Scholar, this is about you. So number of papers you published and how many times people refer or cited you. Okay, that's about individual, independent citations. But impact factor is about the journal. It's about particular journal. Obviously, this impact factor can vary from discipline. I have seen disciplines with very small 1.2 up to 115.84. So look at the difference. It's like almost 0 to 115. Okay, so obviously you can guess.
Actually, excuse me, sir, we cannot see the slide. We're not seeing it. It's only green color showing on this screen. Now it's okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Now it's better. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you see me now? Oh, excellent. Excellent. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So the impact factor. So the impact factor, as I said, the impact factor is for the journal. It depends on the last two, completely the papers published, how many times the paper published in particular journal has been cited. Okay, so H index is a personal, like it's an independent individual indexing. So as I said before, these impact factors vary from discipline, and it can go from 0 to 0.2 till 115.
No,
so it's
sir,
important that
it is more than 115 also.
More than 115. Okay, thanks.
And less than
I think,
0.2 also.
Less than, I
0.
think average. I'm actually taking the average.
You are mentioning the range 0.2 to 115.
To 115. Okay, thank you.
No,
so,
more than that is also New Holland Journal of Medicine, more than 115.
More than 115. So what is the impact factor now?
That is 200 something, 212, I think.
Okay, thanks for that. As I said, I want to show you the weight. It can go from 0.2, as I said, to a very big number. What I can find is 115, but I think there is more than 200 also. So which means basically the journal has been cited, the papers published in the journal has been cited many times. IT, computer science, we can see from 1 to 10, 20, it depends on the discipline. Okay, so the impact factor, again, this is about the journal. It'll tell you how good is the journal is. Okay. Now, which journal? Very difficult question. Depends on the discipline. You can choose. So based on the discipline. So there are journals which are focused on very narrow focus. They can only, take papers which are
Sir, your
which
screen is not
Sir, your
visible.
slide is invisible.
Sir,
Okay.
slides are not visible.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes,
Now?
sir.
Okay.
Now
So I
it's
think something visible. Okay. So which journal is the question? And this is based on there are 4 or 5 ways you can actually look into which journal. It can be based on discipline. Again, some disciplines, very, very high impact factors. Some disciplines are low impact factor. So when I said discipline, it can vary. It's a very broad definition. And there are journals which are very focused. They only, if you have a particular, sort of a discipline built into the journal or your paper. So for example, I know IEEE census, very much focused on census. It has to have something to do with census. Okay. There are journals on big data. Something has to be done. Your paper has to refer. The core part of your paper has to be big data. So there are so many examples where there are focused journals. There are multidisciplinary journals. I can think of, again, you may or may not agree, this is a different one, but there are multidisciplinary where you can really, depends on the special issue or depends on the, journal editor. You can publish various variety of disciplines in there. So, again, there is no sort of a particular, good journals, but most of the journals are more or less multidisciplinary. Most of the IEEE, the very old ones, ACM, are more focused based journals. And as you know, the second criteria you can look for is based on indexing. So I showed you there, Web of Science has a good list of journals, Scopus, social science, which we don't use, but it's for disciplines which are, other disciplines. So Web of Science and Scopus, well, again, there are many, but these are more, more or less pretty much used in the research community these days. And based on accessibility. So this accessibility is basically open access or subscription based. So as you know, some journals we have to pay if your paper has been accepted. There is a MDPI journals, there are IEEE journals, which, actually you have to pay for that. And subscription based, any other, most of the journals are subscription based, means your institute or individuals can actually subscribe to the journal and you can view the contents, basically, depending on a subscription. Coming back to, well, the question is here, how do you choose? It's very simple. If you have some project money where you can, pay for the open access. So the difference is, as you know, open access means anyone can access, anyone. It's a public use. A subscription based is basically only people who have subscription, and obviously, which is a limited, sort of people, research community. So it depends on journals also. And the last but not least, based on review period. So this here, I'm not sure about various journals because there are thousands of journals, but some of the open journals will guarantee you that it's a fast review. They can guarantee you that, in 2-3 weeks, you'll get the response. And traditional review, which is a subscription based normal journals, generally will take long time. Okay, I have seen many which has about 3 to 4 months average sometimes, but they can go up to 6 months also, depending on the sort of journal, depends on how busy the journal is, depends on the reviewers, various things. So based on this, you can actually choose a journal, various criteria in there. So now I'm hoping you can see, yeah. So what is the criteria? So how do you develop? How do you make a paper really good? Okay, how to make a paper really good in there. So the first and foremost thing is the structure of paper, really important. The clarity. It has to be written, well written, in a way that a very normal person, in the sense, not too much, depth in discipline. A very basic. It's just a starting person should be able to understand. Should be there. You have to talk like a story. You have to tell the story, not that one paragraph has no connection with other paragraph. So that will cause a lot of obviously it won't get published. Completeness is nothing but when you're trying to tell a story, start the story and end the story there. Of course, I'm not saying you have to answer all the problems in the world. What I'm trying to say is, even if it is small paper, a survey or something, you open the arguments in the beginning, you close the argument at the end. Okay, and of course you can give more at the end, conclusions, further studies. You can give more thoughts to others who are actually reading, but you just make a full paper out of this. Very important. Can't stress very, very much is the novelty of the paper. It has to have novelty. Otherwise, there is nothing, sort of, if it is nothing novel, obviously no journal, a good journal will accept it. The significance is also important, means, and it should be sort of a, a hot topic in this near future. Okay. And obviously the last but not least again is plagiarism. I've been friends, obviously there are some regulations, policies, but without reference, and if the similarity is very, very high, the journal has, always has right to reject the paper. So there are some regulations. I'm sure you know that, all the journals will go through some sort of checking in the, before publishing. So the question is, where do we start? How do we write this thing? So we have the criteria now. The next is, where do we start? Again, I'll repeat the same thing, but a little bit more depth. Novelty, always have some novelty in the paper. I mean, it may not be big, but it's a starting point. You can start working on that. Very simple thing. Content advancement. How good is the content? Work related to a topic, which is like a hot topic, we call current one. So I'll tell you an example. Like if the same seminar we are actually giving in 10 years or 12 years ago, I would say wireless sensor networks are, a hot topic that time. But now, even though it exists, but it's called a new name called IoT. Okay, so this is what some sort of a trend which is going now. I have seen, I'm sure you have seen many special issues, many topics on Internet of Things. So that's a current hot topic, for example. Or you must have seen a lot of artificial intelligence. You must have seen a lot of machine learning, deep learning, various, big data always. So these could be the current hot topics. I'm saying in my field, but I'm sure you have your own field discipline, which has a different, hot topics in there. And work new. So don't try again to do the same as someone else did before. And it has to be interesting. Try to solve problems which is interesting. That's where you attract more audience in there. So you see, people read papers because it's interesting, and cite papers because it's had some novelty, some sort of novelty. If you have a good idea and case studies, bring it on, put it in your paper, but present it properly, present it in a nice way. Again, can you provide a solution? Maybe not. Even just a proposal is good, because you may not be able to solve all things in the paper. It can have a series of papers, and you may not be able to provide all the solutions for that. This is what the survey papers do. Basically, it'll combine all the existing works and analyze the work. So you may not provide a solution, you just comment on what's the existing work is doing. So it is also fine. There are journals which actually take survey as a very, I mean, there are letters and other things very seriously. And if you see the traditional method, most of the time in the citations, the top citation people, most of the journals, most of the papers they published are some sort of survey papers. But the difference is their survey papers come very early, very, very early. So that's why a lot of people refer to that one. So there are so many examples we can give, survey papers especially. So what is this novelty? There are a lot of definitions on this novelty in there. Something not defined before, or work has not been done. A lot of people, whenever we give as a journal, because as I said, I'm editing for a couple of journals, when we actually reject a paper saying that there's no novelty, this is very common though, is that we had explained them what is this novelty means, and we had explained them why it is novel, because there are papers already existing in the literature survey. It's very fine balance. Sometimes we may be wrong. There may not be extensive, work in the particular area, but most of the times we try to get some external help to see whether it's existing or new work in there. And where we get this novelty? So basically, it's your thought, it's your inspiration. You see something, you heard something, you're talking to your friends, you sort of, it's a creative idea, you got some creative ideas. So this is what we call novelty. So from there, it's a very basic inspiration. This is about inspiration. You pick up that, creative idea, you develop into a sort of a concept. That concept, as I said previously, we saw, you create it, put some data, existing studies, do a studies literature survey, see whether anyone has done similar work. If they haven't done any similar work, I think this work is novel. And then you actually add some more data or some case studies to that, or generate some survey papers on that. Anything can be novel. And as I said before, it's very important. Research most of the time is a teamwork. So you talk to your peers who actually work in this area, or talk to someone you think they have some knowledge about this particular concept, exchange ideas, and then develop the concepts. The best way I would think to do this is form groups, network specialized groups. We call, specialized groups based on the discipline, based on a particular idea you have, so many things. You can divide into various research groups, and probably meet every month, talk to each other, saying, look, I found something, I think this is novel, exchange the idea, and tell them, look, probably we can meet together and then work out some paper. So that's how we do. Just talk to each other, generate some ideas, and if we think this is novel idea, just publish in the try to publish in the paper. Okay. And obviously, these seminars like this, I have a lot of colleagues giving seminars on this one. There will be something you can actually take it from there. So seminars can give you some, especially conference seminars, workshops, because a lot of people coming from different, industry, academia, they talk about something in there, and you can pick up some novel ideas from them. Talking to them, it will be good because that can give some ideas. So okay, sorry. Yeah. So coming back here, so the content advancement, as I said, don't invent the wheel again. It's a topic is new, and go with the flow trends, basically the new topics, and your idea, whatever your idea, creative idea you have, it should be something should be tangible. Tangible means it should generate some sort of, and you think you have a strong feeling that it will create a tangible outcome. Okay. Obviously, if you have some supervisor or if you have any senior who can help you with this, because of the experience, they can help you in creating such tangible outcomes in there. There are various things you can do. There are short-term research ideas. There are long-term research ideas, and depends on which area you actually choose. But again, research is not something I would consider short-term. It's basically a long-term research. And people, I know a lot of top research leaders in the world. From day one, they stick to one topic. From day one, they work on something very, very niche area from their period, 30, 40 years ago. So same thing. And they really do well because it's a long-term research. They have inventions, they have patents on this particular topic. They done really well. And there's so many examples in the world where they've done long-term research. So your idea should be tangible and make it more sort of a long-term research. Align with your current division, discipline, whatever strategies you have, because obviously at the end of the day, you want recognition from your peers in your own discipline, and you want the recognition from entire world in the global discipline there. So obviously it will help you to sort of progress in your life also, especially if you're if you want to go further, getting a promotions in your area and field. It's really important you have long-term research, but align with the current your strategy, whatever strategy you have, your discipline strategy. I mean, so now, as I said before, content writing is really important. Formulate an important research question and ask the questions. Why we need this one? Is anything very similar already existing? So if not, then formulate the question there. So obviously, as you know, a research paper always starts with a questioning. So saying that, look, there is a some model method, and you criticize the method. You ask a question saying why it is done like this. Why can't you do in a different way? Okay, and data or design should be heart of your everything. You always either, most of us has some data to back up. Okay, so if I say, oh, my model works fine, my model works really well compared to other existing model, I have to have a sort of a credible data supporting my claim. Okay, you can't just say, look, I got this idea and it works fine. So as you know, a lot of journals these days are also asking for real data, not just graphs. They want to see the data, because some may not be in IT, but some of the health related research publications, we had to provide full data, and it should be visible and it should be consistent. So your data is the heart of your everything you do. And obviously, are there too many works related? If there are existing works related, what is that new in your work? So differentiate your work. this is where your novelty comes into picture. So you always has to differentiate from existing contents. Sound study design in the sense as good as possible. So your structure should be well strong, has to have differentiation from others, and it should be well designed. As I said before, some happens in IT discipline, but I have seen in health science especially collaborate for data. You know that medical sciences has a lot of clinical trials, and there'll be plenty of data around, but this data can be only shared with some we call labs. So there are specific labs working on different problems or different genes in the health science. So they have the data, so you can collaborate. And these days, most of the things are very much on the cloud. So it's easy to collaborate and easy to share the knowledge. So give and take, basically it happens, give and take very much. Still today, we'll get a lot of inquiries about a particular paper we published in 10 years ago, saying, okay, we use the same concept, but we are using a different set of data. So they want to use a data to comparison, and we always share with them. So obviously it's really important, give and take, with your, now, I'm sure some will be surprised with this. High impact papers need strong evidence and noteworthy conclusions, obviously. But if you see towards your right, the title is the eye catcher, then the abstract, then the paper. So I'm sure, like me, many of you will review a lot of papers. So what you review, you got a paper and you accepted the review, and first thing when you download the paper or looking on the web, first thing you read is the title. Okay. So again, 60% of the time, this will make up some sort of initial decision, basically. Because if it is not new, if it is not novel in this title, if it is not something exciting, you won't feel like there is something inside which excites you, basically, and it will be novel, it will be good paper. So title is really important. Whenever you write a paper, make sure the title has the attraction for this particular paper. And one second very important one is abstract. Abstract is really important after the title, because this is the only below the title most of the time, will tell you the summary, what you did in the paper. You don't have to read the paper. Some really we can understand based on the abstract, what you're actually trying to tell. What is the story? Summary of the story is already in the abstract. People, will only go or will be interested if the abstract is really well structured, well written. So I can't stress anymore that title and abstract are really important. Title receive far more reviews or views than the paper itself. See, you can remember the title. I can really remember some of the titles I read before, because they are so attractive, so sort of solid. The words are so, hot topics. You can remember the title. And, that's how the title should be. And very important, don't think everyone who reads the paper are really technical people, okay? And maybe not. And also maybe some initial students, PhD students, they may not be able to read may not understand all the jargon we are using. So as much as you can, you actually use a very basic language. But of course, I'm not saying use very plain language in the sense, you have to have something in the paper, but try not to use too much of jargon. Keep the title short, not too long. You can't remember. Short and sweet is the best one. Okay. We have titles. There are some journals actually have title limitation also. They don't allow more than certain words a day. But regardless, it's very important to attract your paper through the title. So coming back to the writing style, as I said before, good abstract is always half the battle. You had the best title, you got the best abstract, you did really well in there, you almost got the half of the paper accepted. So again, starting from the paragraph, after the abstract, that's where we start reading your paper. So first impression is the best impression. We start with the abstract. Slowly, if the abstract is interesting, we go to the next level. Okay, and abstract has to capture the and summarize the best parts of your paper. It's really important. We tell the story, summarize the story in in a paragraph basically. But that paragraph is the attraction. It'll differentiate between either accept or reject. Review what you have found and the exciting things to discover. Okay, the preview of what you have found is basically, again, abstract will tell you what you found. As much as you can, use simple words in the abstract also. So saying that, look, this paper, we propose a new methodology to find a better way to test a particular instrument or something, something very nice. And this should attract them, saying, because you have a proposal which has a new invention. So you're already telling them, and you tell them we are using artificial intelligence based methodology or method. So these things are really attractive because you're using a new method for a problem which is not solved before. So these things can attract the reviewer for the paper. So let's go to the details in there. Now, again, before I was telling you before that most of the research is done in a group or a teams, labs we call it. So we have a labs, based on the labs, you have inventions in there. And write a great literature review, critical for especially for papers, survey papers in there. So this will give you a stand saying, this is literature survey. Why you do literature survey? This will give you a backup for your argument. You can't say, I read something and it says something. You have already showed them that I read this paper X and it tells that this particular methodology, and then I proved that methodology is not accurate or it can be improved. So that's what the literature survey is. You're comparing with your peers basically. And important is, tell them what is the gap and how your contribution actually make a key difference. Okay, obviously you'll come to that background or background work, or you say literature review. There, important is find their the weakness of the particular paper and find the gaps. You fill the gaps with your own contribution. Then target a journal, because see, as I said before, our discipline, if you're on IT, and it's a bit more broader, we can publish in a lot of other journals, but there are some disciplines where they have very focused journals, and they look for that focused journals. So which means you had to, before you have the full paper, you had to almost target the journal, because some journals will take survey papers, some don't. So you had to make up your mind which journal you want to publish in. Again, I think this is very common. Don't refer to old papers. Really important, because that really tells the reviewer that you're not updated. You're still referring to something very old. Definitely don't forget to refer someone's work. If it is someone's work, don't be shy to refer them, because a lot of people think because of the restriction on number of references and things, you can't avoid referring them, because it's not your work. You have to refer that thing. Now, after writing all this title, abstract, coming to the main contents, use very good diagrams. Diagrams also are figures, we call. Will tell you, it'll sometimes, paragraph, the figures tells you 1,000 words, as you know. So make it visible, clearly visible, and the data should be represented properly on the graph or a diagram. Okay, and it should tell some sort of story. It should visually tell some sort of story. For example, you are comparing with last year number of papers published to this year number of papers published. It should have a bar which will tell you the number. It should be very clear. It should be very visible. Pay attention to the structure of the paper, and very important is language used in the paper. I'll come to that language used in the paper. Obviously, like me, not coming from native English speaking, we always have to take either if you have a friend who is a native speaker who can speak English and write English well, obviously invite him into the team. If he's in this area, generally he'll be very helpful in there. If budget permits, use a professional reader. So because our target here is to publish in a high impact journals. Always English language is really important for them. Okay, even though your idea is the best idea we can think of and a very novel idea, but if your language is not proper, if your the written English is not good, they don't publishing. They may ask you to revise, reread, proofreading sometimes, but some journals reject it because part of their criteria is your paper should be able, anyone should be able to understand your paper. So I think I'll quickly skip this one. Data processing, you had to make sure we repeated something before. Make sure you have a meaningful data. And generally a lot of journals doesn't prefer colorful graphs. So avoid this thing. Use the best tools you have already, graphic tools in there, and make sure it's all visible. And if required, you may also require to upload this data onto the journal website. Now, this is my experience. This is my can you see me now? Okay, this is my experience here. I will again. So let me show this again. So almost 70 to 80% of papers go through revision during peer process. Almost 70. Again, this is my experience here. You may have a different statistics in there. Sometimes you'll be disappointed with the outcome, obviously, but it's the reality because of various factors. It's not just one. Your paper may be good, but still, because of the number of papers, the limitation of the publisher, issues, your paper may not be accepted. So, but don't get disappointed for that. Answer all the questions in the review process, really important, even though if it is a minor issue. And while responding to the reviewers, well, of course, make them nicely understand, because your thinking and their thinking doesn't match generally. So you had to come to a common ground. To come to a common ground, it's really important that we put it in a nice way, saying, yep, we agree in that, but this is the problem we have in implementing this model, something very nicely. If necessary, definitely it may be another round. So I have seen this recent 1-2 years, many papers are going through the second round because the reviewer is not happy with the answers or the response from the others, so he may ask you to, again, in the sense, more additional review questions. So in that, about 40 to 50% will go through second round also, and never disagree with the reviewer. Of course, you definitely in your heart You think, no, I'm right, they're wrong. I agree. Sometimes reviewers will be wrong. Maybe they don't fully understand the picture, but these, you had to make them understand in a nice way. Obviously, if you think, no, this is completely wrong, the reviewer got this completely wrong, you have to put your arguments, definitely, but it has to be a strong argument. Okay, you have to make sure that it's really strong. So that's end of the publication. So you got a really good idea, and you got a novel topic, you have a good structure, you published. But after publishing, what will happen? So remember, I was telling you, not publishing, you have to, make sure it's been used by someone, it's been cited by someone. That's where you get real value of publication. So in not so high impact zone. So average impact factor, but the rate has been factored out. Okay, so it's that had the high factors. They are but obviously, because they are cited more, they will go into the higher level citation index in the coming years. Basically, the journal reputation is just a vehicle to assist you in your paper exposure. Means many people know because you published in IEEE Communications, you published in IEEE IoT journal, because it's a reputed journal. Evidence shows that survey papers are highly cited. I think I told you before. I know some highly cited researchers, and most of their survey papers. But remember, the condition is these survey papers has to come well in advance before actual research starts. It's like a very much early stages. Then these survey papers are really highly cited. Publication is only one thing. Publicity is almost important. Same criteria. Not just publishing in a journal. You have to publicity is also important, in the sense you have to convey, you have to disseminate the information to others. But don't insist or force others to cite. This is not. Sometimes it's not fair, because if it doesn't fit into their journal, just can't fit in the reference just like that. There are some practices where you cite me, I cite you, things like that, but it's not at all. These days, some of the journals actually looking at this cross-referencing method. So they will look at, because everything is online now, they're looking at some sort of this mechanism where people citing each other, and they're asking the others not to do that. Because it's I mean, until unless it's really required, of course you can do that. That's not a real question there. So my final thoughts are, basically a good, well-focused research. Keep in mind, research methodologies. Always try to publish in high impact, in the sense international and high impact journals. Try your best, and again, patience, really important. Clarity, well presenting, persistence always. One of my paper got revised 3 times. I think very few, but 3 times, and published after 2 years. So I can tell you, I'm not patient, but I think in that case, I'm really surprised. Even after 2 years, they published the paper. But remember, last but not least, again, failure is a stepping stone to success. If you got any rejection in first paper, don't worry. You actually can learn a lot of things. Remember, reviewer comments are really important to make your paper better. It's really important. A lot of people ignore, if they get rejected, ignore the review comments, but they will give you some really strong feedback to improve your basically the paper. And maybe, who knows, I mean, I said, happens to me, happens to most of us, paper get rejected. But don't get that as a disappointment. You had to continue, persistence, patience, and agree what people say. We had to really take their reviews or views into account and modify that one. Don't think that this is my method, this is all is correct. Generally, because it's an international journal, a lot of experts has a lot of experience in what they're talking. So hopefully you get a good feedback in there. So all the best, and if time permits, I'm opening for questions in there.
Hello,
Yes.
am I audible, sir? There
Yes,
is
yes.
Anjali. She is asking, is data play important role when you publish review or thesis?
Data plays an important role when you
publish review or thesis.
say yes. Some disciplines requires data to be submitted with that. Yeah, definitely important. I would say definitely, yeah.
One is Dr. Pal Singh. One of my paper is under review from past 2 years almost. Even I am waiting for the first review decision.
Two things. I'm not sure what is the paper is about, but by 2 years, the concept proposed, maybe it's already old. Some disciplines, some of the papers actually after 2 years they don't publish at all. It's just too old for them. So it depends. But I would strongly suggest to withdraw a paper and probably give it a shot in a different journal, which is more fast reviewing there.
But they should reject, Nazar.
Sir, there is one Dr. Rajesh Yadav. Is it true that high impact factor journals also depend on who is publishing, which institute is publishing? Have we already impact publication, high impact publications?
To some extent, but see, it's like a club. So if people regularly publishing in good journals, they built the reputation, obviously. So they want, because see, you cite them more often. So definitely there are some journals which will look at your institute and the person who is publishing, because they built a reputation.
Thank you, sir. And one is Abhishek Sharma. He is asking how impact factor calculated.
It's the number of papers published in a particular journal divided by the citations for the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And one is Manoj Kumar. What is the importance of reviewing international papers when my topic pertains to India?
Doesn't matter if it contains because I have seen so many papers which take the case study as a local case study. And for example, I have seen a paper in last year, I think 2019, which is about how to determine the dengue fever outbreak in a particular region using a sort of a mapping, artificial mapping. So it is important. So there is no difference basically.
Okay, sir. Next question is from Ritu. Please tell the difference between H index and impact factor.
H index is given to an individual, means your own number, your own index. How many papers you published and how many times the paper has been published, cited basically. Impact factor is about the journal. How many papers have been published in the journal for the last 2 years? How many cited from the journal, from the papers basically.
Okay. Sir, next question is it necessary to do self-analysis on plagiarism before sending any research paper?
100%, I agree. It should, because it's rather we will find out and modify and see where the reference are missing rather than others telling us, because it gives a bad impression.
Yes, sir, absolutely right. So next question is, what is the difference in between ESCI and SCI index journals?
ESI is an extended, extended indexing report. SCI is basically the most common ones. So what they
No,
do
sir,
is,
excuse me.
yeah.
Can I add my comment? This is not extended.
Sure.
This is emerging source citation index. That is new
Which
indexing.
is,
Emerging ESCI, emerging source citation index.
so you're
ESCI is the
talking about,
different. The question is, what is the difference between ESCI and SCI index journals? ESCI is the new indexing agency given by Web of Science, emerging source citation index. That is not extended.
so
Expanded is the
they
difference.
Uh, yes, sir, you are right. Extended is the SCIE. That is the extended. ESCI is
yeah.
the emerging
And
science.
now for your information, from January 2020, SCI and SCI is merged, and now it is known
Yes.
as SCIE.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. Now
But
the
sir is explaining wrong. Sir is saying expanded. The ESCI is not expanded.
sir,
ESCI is emerging source citation index.
listen, sir. Be polite, please. You are in a session.
Yes, ma'am, I'm
that's
saying.
fine. Let me correct. No, thanks for correcting, because I thought SCIE. Is that the question? Is SCIE or ESCIE?
Questions are ESCI.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was talking about SCIE.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Go on. Sorry. Yeah. Go on.
Sir, if I have a case study that revolves around on a particular patent, can it find a place in international journal?
Depends on how you write it, but you already got a patent. Is that the question? Like, she already got a patent or he already got a patent?
So that's not written.
It says patient or patent.
Patient. Sir, one more question. How much references should be added for a good research article? Is there any range for it?
Some journals will restrict you number of figures, number of equations, and references. I know 15 is common, but look, survey papers always have a lot of references. Okay, so there is no, so refer only when you refer to something else which is not your work. That's important. So there is no sort of a blind rule in this.
Sir,
But some journals will definitely limit you. This.
Yes, sir. So Yogesh Sharma is asking, should we look for an impact factor of journal or only index of journal?
See, impact factor will give you the position of the journal, means how many other your peers actually publishing in that good papers in that journal. So I would say impact factor will give you a good sort of a position of this particular journal. So having, for example, having a journal with 10 impact factor means it has a good impact, and people reading that journals and citing them. So I would think it's a good fact. It's a good indication, impact factor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. There are two more questions. One is from Neetu Pandey. How many literature reviews important for papers and thesis?
Look, depends really on the topic. I have seen quite a few, but for literature survey, there is nothing, there's no limit. But remember, literature, when you do a literature survey, cover as much as you can related topics. That's really important, because you don't want to miss anything which may be similar to your work. So that's the literature survey.
So if we submit our paper in a paid journal, so is it of low importance?
Not really. It's just who has the money and who doesn't. That's all. See, people who has some project money generally, because you're going to go very fast to the public. By publishing in an open journal, everyone will know, as far as I know, a couple of weeks, that's it. Once you have a full paper, submit, 2-3 weeks, you get the review. Another 2-3 weeks, it will be less than 3 weeks, it will be online, and it goes to the search engines. So basically your work is, you're disseminating your work pretty well, pretty quickly. So if you have that choice, definitely, yeah. But there is no sort of good papers are also published in open access.
Thank you, sir. And one more question. Can we submit a paper at more than one place at the same time?
No. Not at all. Absolutely. They will actually, sometimes they'll blacklist authors if you do that. Reason being, journals, they will go through a lot of processing, a lot of work after you submit reviews and other things. And if you submit at the same time, I think they will ask you in the beginning also while submitting, have you submitted this elsewhere? So it's really important. You submit only one at a time. And once you have a decision, it's up to you. You can submit in a different journal, but not at the same time.
Okay. Yes, sure, you are absolutely right. One more, sir. Is there a lot of fake journals? How we can identify it? That is the main problem. Many of the times, this is a very difficult to find it the good journals for the research scholars, mainly for the research scholars.
So, yeah, definitely. So look for some indexed ones where there is a list of journals which are either recognized by the IEEE or some indexing by the Thomas, the indexing, any indexing. I would say go for impact factor and SCI index or impact factor, because these are well recognized. They are in the field for more than 2 years. So you have some sort of assurance that they are better, or they are some this one.
Yes, many cases we can also put it their ICN number so that we can easily find it. That this is the Scopus, SCI or ESCI or the web websites. We can easily find it. Yes, sir. One more question, sir. There are many journals indexed in Scopus who are charging processing fees. Is it really worth it to send the research paper in such journals for the academic importance?
It depends on the paper. If you like this paper to be out in the public very soon, because either the market has changed or you think it's sort of very important that your work has to be read by others and cited. If it is that urgency, or you're finishing your project and you think you should get this out before the project is finished, I prefer open journal.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We get lots of information from you. And if any query, kindly write it in the chat box. Yes, sir. One more. A journal having good impact factor but not recognized by UGC.
So journal has a good impact factor, but not recognized by UGC in there. It's very rare though, isn't it? Because generally, most of the journals are recognized by UGC. I'm not sure what is the UGC, the Grants Commission, isn't it?
Thank you so much, sir, for the most interesting and inspiring workshop. I didn't only enjoyed it, but have tried to practice. Now I feel more confident, and I think everyone for the research scholar who are the research scholar, they are very confident to do the research. And the most of the thing is that how we can go the impacted journals, impact factor, because in these days, this is the main mandatory. Every university, either that is a private, either that is a government university, I think that is the main role. So all of the researchers, they get it the knowledge that what is the importance of the paid journal, unpaid journal, how they can find it the good journals. So thank you so much, sir, for your valuable suggestions. And many of them they can also try, because I think you have also very special issues and good journals they can also publish in your journals, also good journals. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and all the best to you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.